Brandon Astley here, play-by-play for the Abby Canucks. You got it locked on the line change, a Vancouver Canucks podcast.
What's up, Canucks Nation? Welcome to the line change. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about, obviously, should they do it? Should they not do it? We're going to go over the Teddy Blueger extension debate that, of course, is a hot topic right now, especially after the fact that he was not dealt at the deadline. And obviously, we heard the whispers about, the Canucks maybe considering a extension prior to the trade deadline. And, well, now it looks like that we are leaning in that direction. But, of course, the question remains, should they do it or should they not do it? We're going to weigh both options. Yes, I know I just did the 6-7 thing, but we are going to weigh both of those options, and we're going to have a little bit of a debate about it. We're actually going to look at an article that talks about this, and we're going to go by this article written by Stéphane Roger from Canucks Army. I highly recommend reading it, and, if you want, on your own time. But obviously, we've used Stéphane Roger's articles in the past, and he writes some great stuff. He has some great insights into this. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. I'm going to bring this up onto the screen. And here, let's do full blown so we can actually read it. But he goes on to say, but he basically goes on to say, when reports were made earlier in trade deadline week that the Vancouver Canucks were considering a post-deadline extension for pending UFA Teddy Blueger, some read it as a bit of negotiation gamemanship. It might have been the Canucks were trying to increase the trade offers coming in for Blueger, but suggesting that they were happy to keep him if said offers never got up to snuff. But if that were the case, it was, of course, a game of chicken. That GM, Patrick Levine and company, lost. The 2026 NHL trade deadline has, of course, come and gone, and Blueger remains a Canuck. That being the case, one has to now assume that the reports were accurate and that the Canucks are truly considering some sort of extension for Blueger. Is that a wise idea? If so, let's take a look at Blueger, the player. Entirely within the vacuum of his performance as a player, it's hard not to argue that Blueger has earned an extension. Amid one of the most turmoil-laden seasons in franchise history, Blueger has remained a beacon of consistency. In fact, though injuries limited him to just 14 games pre-deadline, Blueger has 8 points in those 14 games, which is good for a 0.57 points per game average. If that holds, it'll be the most productive season of his career. And how many Canucks are going to call 25-26 anything close to their best? Points aside, Blueger continues to do all those little things that many thought would make him an ideal candidate for some contender to add as depth at the deadline. He's skating 16 minutes and 14 seconds a night. He's starting most of his shifts in the defensive end, and he's killing penalties. The only thing that has slipped at all in Blueger's game here at the age of 31 are his faceoffs, down to a near career worst 45.8%. One, of course, has to assume that it is at least partially down to a late start and needing to shake off some rust while facing centers in mid-season form. Put all that together, and under plenty of circumstances, a Blueger extension might make sense. On the ice, there's little chance that Blueger's play is going to hurt the Canucks anytime soon. Of course, we're talking impact. Then the context of the trade deadline has to be applied next. Alvin spoke about a lack of offers for Blueger, but surely there had to be at least something out there at some point along the way. We saw other bottom six centers like Michael McCarron, who went for a second-round pick, Scott Laughton, who went for a third-round pick, and Sam Carrick, who went for a third and sixth-round picks. You also had Nick Dowd, who went for a second and a third, go for better than decent returns. With the Canucks maintaining an unused retention slot, there almost had to be at least a little draft capital theoretically available for Teddy Blueger. Management must be thinking to some extent that a Blueger extension is worth more than said draft capital in both the short and long run. The line of thinking where Blueger gets extended to prevent him from quote-unquote walking away for nothing, very much similar to how Pius Suter did last summer, doesn't really fly if the team had the option to trade him, and is a little too close to a sunk cost fallacy for comfort anyway. The motivation to keep Blueger has to go beyond that. Now, we're going to take a look at concerns with keeping Blueger. Now, these are the concerns with keeping him. An immediate concern about a potential Blueger extension that will be raised is around roster space. The Canucks' forward group already got a little squishy at times this season, and there's hope of more youth being injected into that mix next year. Now, in the end, it was probably assumed by most that more bodies than just Kiefer Sherwood, Connor Garland, and David Camp would be shipped out. You can also throw Lucas Reichel into that list as well. If we look at just at Blueger's center position, he'd be extending to slot somewhere into a depth chart that could still include Elias Pettersson, Marco Rossi, Aatu Ratu, and Max Sasson. We'll count Philip Hedl out of the center picture for now, but prospects Braden Coots and the recently recalled Ty Mueller will both make a push for a spot in camp. Or I should say, was recalled, but then he ended up not being recalled. Ty Mueller, I should say. In a world where Sasson makes an oft-expected transition to the wing and where both Coots and Mueller develop further in the AHL next season, there's a theoretical spot left open for Blueger platooning in the bottom six with Aatu Ratu, as he will presumably do for the rest of 25-26, regardless of an extension. There seems to be little chance of Blueger truly blocking anyone, at least not for the 26-27 campaign. If someone like Coots pushes their way onto the roster, Blueger can be pushed down the depth chart easily enough, or even slide over to the wing himself. The Canucks wish they had more forward prospects gunning for jobs, but they really don't, at least not yet. One could talk here about team culture, as those aforementioned prospects spend more time in the NHL with the Canucks. It's important that they're receiving the right kind of mentorship. By all accounts, Blueger is a consummate professional with cup-winning experience who sets a positive example for his teammates. He's the exact kind of veteran to keep around in the room for that exact purpose. There is, of course, always the possibility of trading Blueger again at some point in the future, if he does indeed sign a contract extension. There'll almost certainly be another hot market for centers at the 2027 trade deadline and at the 2028 trade deadline, and so on. Whether draft or prospect capital may have been made available for Blueger this year may be made available again. There was a lot of talk about the Canucks potentially taking on flippable cap dumps to sell in the future, but it's always better when the players you're flipping are players you actually want around in the meantime. But if we look at all these factors at the same time, it becomes clear that the main and most important mark of whether a Blueger extension makes sense for the Canucks will, of course, be the term. The rebuild is on, the draft picks are being acquired, and those forward spots are going to be needed eventually. Blueger may contribute positively and on and off the ice right now, and he may not be blocking the progress of anyone yet, but the longer he sticks around, the more likely it is that he starts to get in the way. Sign Blueger to a 1 or maybe even 2 year extension at about the same price he's at now, and most should be able to get on board with that. Plan for him to be a good influence and a bit of a stabilizing force for the youngsters for another partial season or two, and then plan to cash in on him thereafter. Anything more than that, however, and the Canucks would be best to pursue other similar options that are available on short-term deals. Simply put, Vancouver's days of signing veterans to long-term contracts should be at an end here and at an end for a good long while. That's as true for Blueger as it is for anyone. So there you go. There's the article. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm just going to chime in my 2 cents on this. I am in the same boat as Stéphane Roger. I've already said, I believe it was in one of our recent post games, where I basically said, it has to be maximum 2 years. It cannot be any more than 2 years. You just can't go that far with him. And I feel as though, you can hopefully try and keep him at the same cap hit, which is $3.6 million he's making over the 2 years that he was here in Vancouver. That is, of course, total. So if they were to do a similar contract to that for the next 2 years at 3.6 million, I mean, heck, if you want to, I don't know, make it 3.7 or 3.8, as long as it's under 4, I think you're okay. But keeping it at 3.6 million for the next 2 years, I think is doable. or heck, if he's willing to take a discount to stay, by all means, I'm all for that as well. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below. Is it a thumbs up for extending Teddy Blueger, or is it a thumbs down for extending Blueger? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the Line Change, and be sure to have your notifications turned on so you don't miss more in-depth analysis of your Vancouver Canucks. Let's take a look at the NHL betting lines for DraftKings real quick. Just going to pull it up on my phone. So the NHL betting lines for today, it is March 10th. So right now you have the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Montreal Canadiens. The Maple Leafs are at a plus 1.5 and a minus 175 on the puck line, and they're a plus 142 on the money line. The Montreal Canadiens are at a minus 1.5 or a plus 145 on the puck line, and a minus 170 on the money line. So go ahead, place your betting odds on the lineups, on the lines, and of course, as always, do keep in mind that these odds are subject to change, and of course, please play responsibly. And right now, I want to give a shout out and thank you to my sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, which is of course an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario, restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL, all rights reserved. This video has been a presentation of both DraftKings Sportsbook as well as the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, where it's every team, everywhere.
Once again, drop your comments down below. Is it a yes or a no on a Teddy Blueger extension? I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments. Go ahead. Yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you think, him signing a maximum 2 years is okay for you guys and at the same cap hit that he's currently at? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next line change.